It's not a matter of, okay, what can I say? It's like, what can I not say now? Because it's like a fire hose that's just coming out. So it keeps me on track. And now I have less time, but that's a challenge. Hi, my name's Paul Rosenow, and I'm from Wisconsin. And I say that almost like I'm embarrassed or ashamed. Like you go to a support meeting like AA, or in Wisconsin it's hey. And people sitting around and you say, your name. So let's just try this, Hi, I'm Paul from Wisconsin. Hi, Paul from Wisconsin. You got to say that. Aren't you glad that I didn't use this word right here? That's the town that I live in. Anybody want to take a crack at how to say that? That's not fair because I coached him. It took me two months. Konamakawa. Where do they come up with that? I mean, I think legend has it. When someone says legend has it, that means, yeah, right. Surveys suggest. Back in the day, it's a big Indian community, and then sitting on a reservation, all the settlers are coming in. And, the people in Wisconsin, they speak with an accent. They round their O's, don't you know? You betcha. So they're sitting around, and there's a Polish community, and so Chief, I'm going to get you, met with the settlers and said, we have to come up with a name for your city. And throw out some letters, and Ollie's sitting over there, and he goes, oh, okay, and the tribe scribe, he writes down O, and someone else says C, and Ollie says, oh, so we got an O, we got a C, we got an O, okay, someone else says an N, give me an N, Alex. Oh, so you know where this is going. Eventually, we came up with the name of Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And those accents, I don't know, it's just like, actually. I says to the guy, I says, oofta, Christ's sake, you guys come over here, eh? And go get me a couple of 2-3 beers from the Piggly Wiggly. And I put it in a bag and I put it in the back of my hatchback because we're going up north to go bass fishing. I had to practice that. But if I ever show up and I'm starting to talk like that, Cy, bring your gun, just put a bullet in my head. Because I listened to him the other day, and he always has his gun with him. Pilgrim. But that's life in Wisconsin. And here's a few fun facts from Wisconsin. If you're from Wisconsin, of course, it's the Green Bay Packers all the way. It's football. So first and foremost, I would like to thank my Lord and Savior, Brett Favre. Well, I'm serious because, he's number 4, but he's looked at as the 4th person of the Trinity. That's how serious they are about Brett Favre in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is one of the largest producers of cheese, of course, beer. They have the world's largest music festival called Summerfest. They've got the largest brat festival, but they are the biggest dairy capital in the world. I mean, there's a lot of cows, and we all know a lot of good things come from cows. I mean, really, come on. You got steaks, you've got milk, ice cream, butter, boots, a lot of good stuff. And it's no wonder that you have a big population that migrates from like Pakistan and India, because in that country, they can't eat cows. It's like, oh my goodness, they got the steaks just walking by me. Let's go to Wisconsin. And they speak with an accent. Yes, they do. You betcha. Yes. We're gonna go down to Mickey D's and get ourselves some nice 2 or 3 of those Big Mac sandwiches. Let's sing the song now. 2 beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Yeah. Oh, don't you know? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I am loving it. And so it's such a great community that we embrace everyone, and eventually they soak in and they start talking that way. The other thing is that Wisconsin has a reputation for some pretty famous serial killers. Oh yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer from Wisconsin. He was from Wisconsin. And you ever hear of Ed Gein? He's the guy who inspired the movie Chainsaw Massacre. And he lived just down the road from where I went to college. He used to make lampshades, I'm serious, out of people's skin. That's my people, Wisconsin. And then there's, what's his name, Avery, Steve Avery, who was the inspiration for the documentary Making of a Murderer. Have you heard of that? I mean, what is it about the milk in Wisconsin that people are drinking that, okay, it's one thing to murder somebody. I mean, we've all done that. But to eat them? Really? You got to eat them? Or, okay, you're going to murder someone, but you're going to make lampshades out of their skin? Come on. I bought a couple of lamps, but got to keep the temperature really warm because it's too cold to get the lamps get goosebumps. And then Steve Avery, he was from Manitowoc. That's my hometown. I knew his brother. And so that's the kind of folks that Wisconsin is famous for. But the reality is there's a lot of bad people in every state that you go to. There's a lot of darkness out there, and that's my home state. There are some things in my past that I'm not necessarily proud of. We'll get into that. But a lot of you know me, as Greg was saying, awesome entrepreneur, businessman, CEO of Trinity Worldwide Reprographics. Worldwide. And I had an amazing run that God blessed me with. We had stores in Colorado, Arizona, 5 locations, Southern California. We grew, God blessed us. Yeah, we branched off into tent makers. I had up to 50 employees. We did prayer time in every store. We did Bible study every store. We did outreach in the community on the clock. We allowed our employees to go out and minister. The food bank, the homeless. We reached out to the city of Cerritos and whatever we were at. We sowed in to the city. Amazing. Well, when you do stuff like that, you're a target. And the enemy came at me from all angles. And so I ended up getting to a point where I was ready to retire after 30 years of doing business. And I looked we had to find someone to buy, and I told the broker, find me a Christian, someone who's going to appreciate what we do at Trinity. And there was people that came in and nope. And finally they found a Christian couple who loved the culture that we were doing there. And so we started moving forward with it, went through all the process. We had them come in and get interviewed. I had the employees ask questions, whatever you want, and the broker told these sellers that, whatever you do, don't come in and make any changes. Do not make any changes. And so people would ask, employees would say, are we still going to do prayer time? Yes, we are. Are we going to do Bible study? Absolutely. We love that. We're going to reach out into the community? Yep. You're not going to let anybody go. No. So they were like committed. So I said, okay, let's do that. Sign the documents, and then away I retired, stepped back, handed over, God is good. A couple weeks later, I find out they started letting people go. And then they started making changes in the schedule. We're not going to do prayer time every day, maybe once or twice a week. And we're going to shorten the Bible study because it was like an hour. And if I did it, it was 2 hours. But hey, come to work. I want you to start the day out refreshed. To me, that was a priority, not for them. And then they made a bunch of other changes. And wouldn't you know, 2 weeks later, it took them 2 weeks to make those changes. God waited 2 weeks. And then they got the call from our biggest customer. It was a charter school who accounted for 75% of our business. And when you have a business and you're trying to sell, no banks would touch it. We're not going to give you a loan because one of your customers could leave. It's 75% of your business. So my wife and I had to carry the loan and be the bank. You know what? It's in God's hands. You guys are going to do great. Just stick with the plan. Remember? Well, they didn't stick with the plan. So they got that call that the big customer said, we're going to start moving work to another vendor now. We're going to make some changes. And immediately they lost half of that business and possibly more. It was just devastated. They were convinced that I knew something was up, and that's why I wanted to sell the business, because, oh, it's going down the hill. You knew, and I didn't. And I went in, I talked with them, and they lectured me for almost an hour, and I said, okay, I listened politely. Now, can I speak for a little bit and not be interrupted? And they did, and I said, first of all, what exactly were you thinking? I mean, you knew what type of a business this was. It's a faith-based business. This is God's business. It was never mine. You knew that. You knew that God blessed us over the years because we sowed into the community. And you knew that we did all these things for the employees. You came in, you answered their questions, you said no, 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 and then you made the changes. What were you thinking? And they didn't like that. It was like, well, what were you thinking when you deceived me into buying it? I didn't deceive you at all. We had a sliding scale. If the business went down, then they would make payments. Because they couldn't give me a big lump sum. It had to be payments over a period of time. We're talking $2-3 million. That's my retirement. We are set to go. We were looking forward to retiring. Nope. God had different plans. So they sued me for $3 million. And it was just a nightmare. I had issues with my health, and some of you know that, what I went through. I still have that. Went into the emergency room. AFib, type 2 diabetes, and it just dragged on and on and on. And finally, after like 2-3 years, we'd already moved. We reached a settlement, but it didn't even cover our legal fees. But we had no choice. We had to sell our home. We lost our income for retirement. We had to sell our home to pay the legal fees. And we decided to move back to Wisconsin, where I'm originally from, and we were able to get a home back there around family that helped us financially, an amazing church that brought us in, a church called Hope. That's Hope Church, by the way. We're so glad you're here. And we had just amazing Christian friends. I used to tell people it would take an act of God to get me to move back to Wisconsin. Well, here I am, I'm living in America's Dairyland, don't you know? And it's a different environment. It's like you got the before and you got the after picture. It was God took me from I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, whether in want or plenty. Well, he did it in plenty, and now he said it's time to do it in want. All right. But it was not easy. But here's the other thing. I always tell people, a prophet has no honor in his own home. I could go for hours talking about what that's like for all of you guys, especially if you're married, and I don't have that time. But it's just one of those things, you are, in your home, you are looked at differently because it's familiarity, they know you. And I can say this because my wife knows all the jokes, so she knows they're coming. But, she just, if I were up here and said, well, I can only speak for so long, well, okay, we're done. Or she knows just what to say to put you, to correct you. And I like to look at that as they're correcting you. God's giving you balance. Our wives bring us back down, and then, and our job is to bring them up. There's a balance there. It took me a long time to figure that out. But it really works, and we're in a better situation than we've ever been. She is very happy that I don't have all this resources of money, and every time the phone would ring, she would cringe. Someone's going to ask you for money. We don't get phone calls anymore. Yay, she says. And so she controls the money. It comes in there. I'm like a teenager. And I got to get money. She paid for my trip out here. She loves that, and I'm used to just not worrying about that. I had people at Trinity. I had a staff that took care of all that. I didn't even look to see what the prices were. It was dangerous to have 4 different credit cards with a $100,000 balance or more. And I took advantage of it. I'd buy things and didn't even look at the bill. Someone else paid for it. That doesn't happen anymore. I barely have a credit card and there's a limit on there. But my wife, she's happy with that arrangement. It's helped her get through this whole situation because she knows that, okay. So she paid for my trip. I tell people I have an amazing travel agent because she loves doing that, and she paid for my trip. How cool is that? So, but I didn't stay in any 5-star hotels either. I'm just, I'm at her whim, but hey, you know, I get a free breakfast every now and then. So yeah, here we are, we're in Wisconsin, and like I said, it's been an adjustment. And the other thing is, when you go back to your hometown, a prophet has no honor in their own hometown. You know me from this life, but you don't know me before. And sometimes we all have that. We all have a before in our past of things that we went through. And some of the best testimonies are the juiciest ones that, you know, man, you know, you came out of this, and we all have that testimony. And I look back to my youth in Wisconsin, and I'm not proud. I wouldn't say I have an amazing testimony as some of you guys. I mean, I certainly know what it's like to fail. I almost every job I've ever worked at, I would get fired from because I was headstrong, and I would want to, you know, someone told me you're destined to be self-employed. You need to be your own boss because you can't fire yourself. And but still, I went through so many things. You know, it's like if you're learning from your mistakes, I should be brilliant, you know, because I failed so many times. But I failed at failing. But I grew up in a family where my dad was a pastor. And when there's 10 kids, 10 of us, there's 8 boys and 2 girls. None of us went into the ministry. None of us. And I wanted to at one point, because I just thought it was the coolest thing to see my dad. Because in the churches, they have the big pulpits, and you got to like take an elevator to get up there. And he's wearing the robes, and he's up in front of everybody, and the lights. And it's like, dude, they're worshiping him. I want that. I want that job. And it's like, how cool is that? Yeah, yes, for the wrong reasons, but I admired that, and I wanted to be that. And in high school, I told my counselor, yeah, I want to go on the pastor track. Really? After a couple of years, he pulled me in. And his name, German name, his name is Kermit, if you can believe that. And he sounded like Kermit the Frog. Well, Mr. Rosenow, yeah, why don't you come in here and we're going to talk about your career. I want to be a pastor. Well, I was thinking more like a circus job, but he told me outright that I wasn't smart enough to be a pastor. And he was right, because they got to learn all the languages, Latin, German, Greek, Hebrew, Klingon. I was horrible at languages. I failed almost every class. And so that was a disappointment. My dad said, you know, you don't have to be a pastor to be a shepherd of a flock. He knew I wanted to be in business. He said, you can use a business to bless and shepherd people. And so I remembered that. But still, I grew up in a family, a lot of competition for attention, because, you know, you got your mom and dad and everybody's trying to do things. And we just kind of we drifted to the dark side. I'm not going to name any brothers' names, but there's brothers. I'm in there somewhere. You'll have to guess which one I am. But one of the brothers, you know, had a penchant for going out and partying and staying up late and getting in car chases. Another brother, he had a drinking problem. He drank a lot. Another brother, we were into extortion with the neighbors. There's this old guy that we would take turns and go over and take care of and change the garbage and do little chores. And he would put a quarter on the stove for us. When you're done, here's your quarter. Back then, dude, that's a lot of money. 25 cents. My brother figured out if you took the quarter and then afterwards you come up to, so you got the quarter? And he was like, oh, I thought here you go. So he extorted, he doubled his money. Like, man, that's pretty cool. But, you know, we learned stuff, and here we are, the pastor's kids, and it's true. You're a PK, you got to just try extra hard. And so we just slid into some bad behavior. I had a couple of brothers that we had the keys to my dad's, in his office, so that allowed us to get into the church and the school, and we found where the communion wine was, and get some cheese whiz and Ritz crackers, and we did all that stuff. Another brother found where they kept the offering envelopes, and so he constructed a fake contest to win a bicycle. The list goes on and on. They go into a shop, and you take the price tags off of something that's maybe $5, that's 25 cents. They perfected that art. Another brother would take, and I'm in this scenario, he would take a shopping cart filled with tools and have one of his little brothers, me, hey, Paul, take this out to the car. I'm going to go get some things. And I'm not knowing anything, just wheeled the $400 or $500 worth of tools out to the car and put it in the back of the car. And we just develop a mentality of well, we got to get what we can get, and it's not something that good Christian pastors' sons do. But again, we got pulled into doing that, and it shaped my opinion. It shaped my thoughts on I want to be a business owner, and so we ended up out in California. So we started it in Wisconsin. I wanted to just get out of that life because I wasn't growing in my faith. I believed in God. My dad was a pastor. But like a lot of Christians, you're in a church and it's all about grace. I really appreciate the Lutheran church that really honed me in on the importance of grace. But people abuse it because the mentality is there's nothing that I can do that will get me into heaven. So therefore, I'm not going to worry about, if I do good, I'll get to heaven. Jesus has already taken care of it. It's true, but we miss the idea, you stop what you're doing. And so I was one of those that didn't really grow very much in my faith. And it wasn't until I came to California and I started to meet some amazing people, and I started my business in my garage. I wanted to, even then, I wasn't quite fully on board. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to have a business to make a lot of money because everyone else that I knew that had a business, they had a beautiful truck. I wanted to have a business to get a beautiful truck. And I started my business in my garage, and I called it Rosenow Express Images because after all, Rosenow looked pretty good on the side of the building. I even had a slogan, Rosenow when later isn't good enough. People loved it. Hey, I like that. Well, it didn't take long because I almost ran the business into the ground where God pulled me out and showed me that, no, it's time to change. And so I changed the name to Trinity Worldwide Reprographics. And the second T in Trinity was a red cross. And my dad's church growing up was Trinity. So I was able to incorporate a lot of that into what we did as a printing company. I wanted to be a faith-based company. I wanted to incorporate prayer. I wanted to just give God all the glory and then some. I wanted to show people, and I had Christian people, even some pastors that said, are you sure you want to be that bold? You sure you want to put the cross on the front? Because you might lose some business. And I even had, there were some professors at Claremont College that this guy was a Muslim, and we did a lot of work for him. But he got offended when he saw my new letterhead, and he says, I'm not going to do any work with you. I'm offended by that. And I was ready for it because I said, well, isn't it great that you can come to this country and worship your God and practice your faith? And here you are, you're able to be a professor, and has anyone ever really, messed with you? And he said, no. I said, that's the country that we came to, that you came to, and I feel that I have the same right. If people don't like it, they don't have to do business with me. But at USC, it turned into this amazing ministry because we had boxes that said Trinity on it with a big logo. You're not allowed to speak about your faith on USC campus, but everyone had a box. It was amazing to walk around and see all of our Trinity boxes. And so the ministry that we did, I was shaped by what I learned through my failures. I learned that we all have that dark side. We all have things in our life that we're not proud of. And so it allowed me to look at hiring people through a new lens. I was more compassionate. I brought in people that maybe normally wouldn't get a job. And I had a lady come to me, her son had gotten a DUI, and she actually hit a hit and run. They happened to be Marines. And so he ended up in jail. And I ended up going down there and interviewing him in prison, and I hired him. And he turned out to be one of the best employees I ever had, because guess what? When you're in jail, for good behavior, you get a job, you get to work. And so the judge let him out early, because I signed for him, I'll take responsibility. And he came in and ran circles around people. And my employees, they could see how God worked through this person. It was a learning lesson. And so I started to do that more. In the city of Glendale, I had an office up there, and the city came in with a new program. We're going to see if we get businesses to hire young kids. Sign me up for that. Didn't know that they're young kids who are in prison. And so they brought in this first guy, Anthony. He had tattoos and a major attitude. Came in on his first day with their handler, and I said, "You don't think you could just walk in here and start working?" And they were like, "Well, wait a minute, I thought you said, yeah." I said, "No, you got to prove yourself." And he was like, "What?" I knew that he really liked basketball because he talked about it. So I said, "Guess what, Anthony, if you can beat me in a game of one-on-one, I'll give you a job." You should have seen his face light up. Of course, he creamed me, but it gave him a sense of like respect for me. I showed him respect. And he came in, and he would come in, and he would see us for Bible study, and like, "I'm not going to do that." A couple weeks would go by, he would see us again. Eventually he came in because he had to get the free donuts. And he would come in and eat the donut with an attitude, then he would leave. But eventually he started to stay longer. Eventually he sat down, and eventually he started to ask questions. And again, everybody saw this, and they could see God working through him. It wasn't that long after that, a lady came in, and she said, "I want to see the owner." "Oh, is there a problem?" "Why, yeah, where's the owner?" And she came up and she said, "What have you done with Anthony?" I mean, he was here yesterday. Did he not come home? "Well, yeah, he's at home. He's cleaning the garage. He's singing these Christian songs. He's listening to Christian music. When we eat, he makes sure that we pray." I mean, that's not Anthony. What have you done with him? I said, "We introduced him to Jesus." And so that would kind of help me to just grow more compassionate as I hired people. And I was able to run into a lot of people. I was able to bless them, give them an experience working in an environment that, hey, it's all about Jesus. It's not about money. And so as we move forward, in my new home now, I'm back in Wisconsin. I'm able to just concentrate on helping in different ways that don't involve money, but also just involve prayer and ministry. And I tell people, just like you, that you have a testimony. You all have something that you're not proud of. But don't let the enemy come up and tell you, "You know what, are you kidding me? You're not qualified. Who are you kidding?" If they only knew the real you, if they only knew what you did, and just constant whispering, it's like, just give up. They're not listening to you. God doesn't love you anymore. Your family doesn't care about you. You are a failure. It's at that point that I want you to just, perk up and say, "God does love me, and I'm just the man for the job," because that's who God's looking for. He's looking for the broken. He's looking for people who have struggled, because he showed me the same path. He can show you as well. Thank you very much.